Welcome back to the NFL Week 12 picks. Last week I went 7-7, and overall I am 94-80 against the spread this season. We have 3 Thanksgiving games this week. Dallas, of course, is double-digit favorites against Washington. They have a losing record, and that is obviously their bread and butter this year. Detroit is hosting Green Bay, and it's their first time in 7 years that they've been favored in their annual Thanksgiving game. And they're not just small favorites, they're 7.5-point favorites. Then for the night game, Seattle is hosting San Francisco, and we're either going to watch Geno Smith play with one arm or Drew Lock. And unfortunately for Seahawks fans, it is not entirely clear which one is better right now. We have Tim Boyle and the New York Jets hosting the Miami Dolphins on Black Friday this year. And just to be clear, if Tim Boyle is terrible and or gets hurt, Trevor Siemian will be his backup. Zach is the 3rd string now, which is just absolutely bizarre. Then on Sunday, we have some big matchups. CJ Stroud and the boys are hosting Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, which is a massive game for that division. Then the 6-5 Buffalo Bills travel to Philadelphia to try to continue to resurrect their season and push for the playoffs. And we have a battle of the backups in Cincinnati with Jake Browning and Kenny Pickett. Oh wait. Let's start with these Thanksgiving games. The Lions are hosting Green Bay, and like I mentioned, they are 7.5-point favorites. The Lions are rolling right now, and although they had a close game against Chicago last week, a game in which they almost lost, I think that's such a good sign for this team that they pulled out a W. They were down big with just a few minutes left, and they snuck by with the victory. They were double-digit favorites in that game, and yeah, they should have won by more, but the fact that they're winning in all sorts of different ways this season, I think is great preparation for the playoffs. They were in a shootout a couple weeks ago against the Chargers, and they snuck by with a win. And then last week, they're down double digits with 3 minutes left against the Bears, and they come out with a win. They're winning in weird and ugly ways sometimes, but they are winning, and they're piling up W's, just really similar to the Eagles, actually. And I think that's just such good momentum to have going into the end of the season. Every game in the playoffs is going to be tough. They're all going to be ugly. They're all going to be close. And getting that experience of playing in those types of games and winning those types of games, which historically I don't think really the Lions fans are used to, I think that is great experience for this team. The Packers really still haven't looked very good. And although Jordan Love had a career game last week against the Chargers, they really shouldn't have won that game. LA had a couple of key drops that really would have sealed that game. And the biggest problem for Green Bay right now is Aaron Jones is listed as doubtful and AJ Dillon is listed as questionable. And even against the Chargers when AJ Dillon played, their lead receiver was Jaden Reed, which is a wide receiver. I know that Jordan Love he had a good game and he looked good, but the Chargers pass defense is the worst in the league right now, and they're getting sliced and diced every game. So it is a good sign for Packers fans that he can perform. I just don't think it means much with who it came against. I don't think he's going to have that same success against Detroit, especially if they're missing both their running backs and they're so heavily reliant on the passing game, and I like Detroit in this -7.5. Dallas is favored by 10.5 at home against the Washington Commanders. And I know I'm biased and I know I'm a homer, but I've been saying this for 3 weeks now. The boys put up big numbers against bad teams, and they've just proven that over and over again. They're averaging 30 points a game, and they're beating up bad teams left and right. They have the highest point differential in the entire NFL, and you got to remember that's including a game where they lost by like 30 to the Niners. So in the games that they win, they are beating down teams. I really don't mind this Commanders team at all. I actually do like them, and Sam Howell is somehow leading the league in passing yards this season, which is like mind-blowing because they're not doing that great and you really haven't heard a lot about him. But I do like that team, and the one thing that scares me about them with this spread is just with Howell's big arm, they could get touchdowns quick, and in garbage time you just never know if they're going to get some backdoor cover, which it makes me nervous. But I'm not going to count on that. I'm going to count on Dallas putting up the big numbers and their defense getting some stops, potentially some turnovers, and I'm going to take Dallas -10.5. And please make my Thanksgiving exciting. San Francisco is traveling to Seattle, and they are 6.5-point favorites on the road. And right now, Seattle has a lot of tough injuries. Right now, it's unclear if Geno Smith is going to play, and even if he does, he has a beat-up arm. Right now, it's also unclear if Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, or Tariq Woolen are going to play. And between those four of the best guys on their entire roster. So that's definitely not a good sign. And Drew Lock played horrible last week. So if he's in there, I mean, it's looking even worse. I think that San Francisco is going to keep it rolling. They've had 2 great back-to-back games since the bye week, and this game is actually important for the division. Seattle's only 1 game behind San Francisco, so if they can win this game, they'll be 2 games ahead. They'll have a pretty good cushion, and I think they're just a better team, so they'll be in a good spot. I don't like picking 3 big spreads to cover. I honestly hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, except for the Cowboys game. I hope that covers twice over. But I would like to see some close games on Thanksgiving. I hope they're not all blowouts. I just have a hard time convincing myself to take Seattle or Green Bay with the teams they're playing. So I'm going to take the Niners -6.5 on the road in Seattle on Thanksgiving night. Miami is favored on the road in New York playing the Jets, and they're favored by 9.5. Like I mentioned, Tim Boyle is starting this game, which is bizarre to me. I was surprised it wasn't Trevor Siemian when they benched Zach Wilson. I thought this whole season that people were asking for Siemian to come in and replace him. So when he did finally get benched, I was just surprised to see it be Boyle in there. But I mean, that's where we're at. And that's a big spread on the road. And this would be my 4th big spread in a row that I'm going to take. But if you think I'm betting on Tim Boyle, you're crazy. I'm taking Miami -9.5. I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't think Miami even needs to score more than 17 points to cover this spread. I don't know how the Jets are going to score, but I mean, we'll see. The only concern I have is that Achane and Mostert are both questionable, similar to Green Bay. And that's just bad for any team. If you have zero threat in the running game and you're heavily reliant on just passing, I think any defense can make adjustments, and especially the Jets. They have a great defense already. And if they know what you're going to do, I think that could cause some problems. So I hope one of those guys can play. If not, we might see like Tyreek Hill in the backfield. But like I said, I'm taking Miami -9.5. The Titans are 3.5 point favorites at home against Carolina. And as bad as Carolina has been, I really did have to think about this one for a little bit. Will Levis had an amazing start to his career this season. Against Atlanta, he threw 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, 200 and something yards. He looked great, and I think Titans fans were excited. And then the last 3 games, they've lost all of them. He's had 2 touchdowns and 2 picks combined across the 3 games after throwing 4 touchdowns and no picks in his first game. So clearly he's come back to earth a little bit. Derrick Henry's also only had 62 yards combined in the last 2 games. Their offense just seems stagnant right now, and it seems like they're struggling getting anything going. And I've mentioned this before, like I typically like to take the underdog if the spread's more than 3 points and it's 2 bad teams. But for some reason, I just feel like Tennessee's going to cover. I don't know why. I don't trust really anything they're doing. Maybe it's the fact that I just watched the Cowboys absolutely boat race Carolina and they looked god awful. But I don't know. I'm going to take Tennessee -3.5. I really don't like either team, and I don't feel great either way, which is why I should pick Carolina. I don't know why I'm not, but I'm not. I'm taking Tennessee -3.5. Don't feel good about it. We'll see what happens. The game that I'm probably looking forward to most on Sunday is the Houston Texans hosting the Jaguars. And the Jaguars are coming in as 1.5 point favorites on the road, which is honestly surprising to me. I think both teams have been pretty good this year, if not really good this year. And it seems like they're relatively even. So to see the Texans as home dogs is just a little shocking to me. But I think this game is going to be so fun to watch. I think CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence, I mean, they're both young quarterbacks. They're going to be playing each other twice a year for the next who knows how long, because they're in the same division. And they could be the face of the league over the next 5-10 years. Like, they're both playing really well. CJ Stroud's definitely playing better right now, and Trevor Lawrence has had more experience, but I think he's still getting better every year, which is a good sign. But Stroud's at the top of the league in a lot of ways, and he is an absolute joy to watch. Their whole team is fun. The defense is flying all over the place. Tank Dell's been amazing. Devin Singletary is all of a sudden like cooking. They're just a fun, exciting team. And the Jaguars are too. Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, like they're both good squads. They both have solid defenses. I honestly, I'm stoked for this game. And I haven't said that about an AFC South matchup in like ever. So it's exciting to see these guys going at it. And I mean, this is going to be years to come, I would hope. But right now with CJ playing, I think better than almost any quarterback in the league, and Houston, just something about them I love. I'm going to take Houston -1.5, or actually +1.5 at home. That is just still weird to me. Houston +1.5 at home. I'm stoked for this game. That line was a little surprising to me, but this line might be the most surprising of the week for me. New England is favored on the road against the Giants by 3.5. And I get it that the Giants have been bad and they're probably tanking, but the Patriots have been terrible too. Mac Jones has been really bad, and Belichick is either going to quit or be fired or mutually part ways or whatever you want to call it at the end of the season. And they're probably tanking too. So I don't see why New England would be coming in as road favorites, especially by more than 3 points. New York just had a good win against Washington. They had a solid game. Tommy DeVito actually played well. The Patriots are coming off a bye. I don't know. The line is so shocking to me. It makes me want to pick New England because I'm like, is there something I am just completely missing here? But if anything, it should be like a pick 'em. But I don't know. I'm lost by that. I'm really not sure what's going on. And like I said, that makes me want to pick New England. But I liked what I saw in the Giants last week. Tommy DeVito looked nice. Saquon looked like he had some life back in him. And the Patriots seem like they're falling apart. So I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to take New York +3.5 at home. And I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I look like a dumbass. I might be just completely missing something, and maybe I'll look like an idiot, but I'm going to take New York plus 3.5. The NFC South is really tough to watch this year, and in this one we have two of those teams playing each other. The Saints are favored on the road in Atlanta by 0.5 point. Both teams have their backups playing. Jameis Winston's playing for the Saints, and Desmond Ridder is in for Atlanta. Although Desmond started at the beginning of the year and then got benched and is now starting because Heineke's hurt. So I don't know if he's a true backup, but he's not great. This one's a toss-up for me though, because Jameis Winston, he's too hard to predict. Like, you just never know what you're going to get out of him. I mean, I still remember the season he threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Like, that is a feat. That is ridiculous. Those are ridiculous numbers to have as a quarterback. And even last week when Derek Carr got hurt and he came in from Minnesota, he played like half a game. He had 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. Like, he just hucks the ball and it's super unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. So I just don't know who to take. Like, he's either going to throw like 4 touchdowns or he could throw 4 picks. And I don't know. I think that New Orleans will probably win if Jameis limits his turnovers. I just don't think he's going to, so I'm gonna take Atlanta plus 0.5 point at home. But honestly, who knows? Like, I would not put real money on this game. I genuinely, it's gonna be an ugly one, that's for sure. That's all we know, is it's gonna be ugly. Pittsburgh's going into Cincinnati as 1.5 point favorites, and obviously Joe Burrow's out for the season, which is terrible, and they have Jake Browning starting at quarterback, and it really seems like their season is probably done unless Browning can come in and pull off a miracle. But they already were in a little bit of a hole, and it was going to take some work to get out of it, and having a backup quarterback in there I think is going to cause some problems. And Pittsburgh just fired Matt Canada, so it seems like they're coming in with some new energy. I don't know if anyone in the organization or the fan base liked Matt Canada. Seems like everyone's thrilled he's gone, and they might come in with a little pep in their step trying to prove that he was the problem. Maybe Kenny Pickett will throw for more than like 100 yards in an entire game, because he has looked, like I said, he looks like a backup quarterback. We'll see how he looks now. They've got no excuses. They've been heavily leaning on that Canada stuff. Like, he has been blamed for literally everything. We'll see how it shakes out in this one. I also think Pittsburgh's defense is going to give Browning a lot of trouble in his first full start, and Pittsburgh just has, like I said, they have more energy. They have a much better chance at the playoffs right now. It just seems like they have high hopes and a new feeling about them moving forward with Canada gone. Whereas the Bengals, it seems a little doom and gloom. Like, they were already in the weeds and now Burrow's out. Like, I don't think they have a lot of hope. So for that reason, I'm going to take Pittsburgh minus 1.5. And man, I hope Kenny Pickett has a big game, because if not, if their offense looks just as bad, it's going to look rough for that organization. The Colts are favored at home in Indianapolis, and they are playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Colts are favored by 2.5. Tampa Bay has lost their last 5 out of 6 games. They started the season coming out looking a little bit frisky and like they might make some sort of noise, but now they're sitting here at 4-6, losing 5 of the last 6. They just have not looked very good, and somehow they're still in the hunt for the playoffs because their division is so terrible. So for some reason, I think they're going to win this game. I think they have their playoff hopes alive. I think that the Colts are a relatively similar team to them skill-wise. Gardner Minshew has played good this year. He's had some ups and downs, and they've looked good in some games, not so great in others. The Germany game against New England, I mean, they looked horrible. Luckily for them, New England looked worse, but I think the Bucs are desperate for a win at this point, and like I said, they still somehow have playoff hope. So I'm gonna take the Buccaneers plus 2.5. It's another one I don't feel great about. This week is tough, honestly. Broncos country is hosting the Cleveland Browns with DTR playing quarterback for them. The Browns defense has looked still just absolutely incredible this season. Their offense has obviously struggled to keep up with their defense with Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb out, but the defense has been so good they've single-handedly won games this year. The Colts game in particular, like Myles Garrett, I mean, he literally won that game for them. And the Browns are on a 4-game winning streak. They're coming off that thrilling win against Minnesota last week, and they're looking to continue this. And I've said this in previous videos. I've been a doubter. I've been a little bit of a hater-ish. Not a hater, but I've had a fun year and a half with these Russell Wilson memes. And this team just absolutely stinking at football. It's really been funny and fun to watch. And I thought we were back on that track this year with Sean Payton. Let's go watch my previous video. I said my piece about the Broncos, okay? I'm going to put my faith in them this week again. I think think this is a good test for them. The Browns defense is elite. The Broncos also believe they have an elite defense. If the Broncos can put up some points against this Cleveland defense, I think they're going to be completely fine. I don't think Cleveland's offense has nearly enough firepower to do much against Denver. If Russell Wilson and that offense can show that they have worked some stuff out and they can score a few points against this team, I think they're going to win. And that would be 5 in a row. And that would be looking like these playoff hopes are all the way back, which is crazy with how they started the year. I mean, they started the year they lost 70-20. Okay. Anyways, I'm taking Denver minus 2.5 at home against Cleveland. We'll see. Kyler Murray has had a couple games to get back in the swing of things, and he's honestly looked pretty good. The Cardinals are hosting the Rams this week, and they're 0.5 point favorites at home. And this one's tough right now because Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are both listed as questionable for this game. So I reserve the right to switch this pick or take the win. If neither one of these receivers play, I'm switching my pick to Arizona. But if even one of them plays, I'm going to take the Rams. I think that they have a better coach. I think they have a better team. I think they have a better, or at least more experienced quarterback. I like the Rams. I think they're honestly decent this year. They've got killed a bunch and they've won some weird games they shouldn't have won, but I think they're solid. But Stafford has to have somebody to throw the ball to. So if one of those guys plays, I'm taking the Rams. If neither one of them play, I'm taking the Cardinals. I think that's fair. Okay, I think that's fair. Kansas City is going into Vegas as 9.5 point favorites. And Kansas City has just not had the year that I think we're accustomed to seeing with them, which is weird to say because they're sitting here at 7-3. You know, they're one of the top teams in the AFC. They're clearly going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to make a good push. They just haven't looked as electric as I think we're used to seeing. And granted, again, they should have won the Monday Night Football game against Philly. If Valdez-Scantling didn't drop that ball, I mean, I think they win that game. So it's tough to really say they haven't looked great. I just think we're used to seeing like dominant performances out of them. And I don't think they're striking fear into anyone with how they're playing right now. Having said that, and I'm probably going to regret this, which is why I would never advise anyone to take my pick'em's advice. But I think that they're dying for a statement win. I really do. And this is a division game. It's a good time to do it. I think they really need to prove to themselves and to the rest of the world that they're figuring it out, that like they're getting better as we go. And I think they're dying to get a big win. They haven't had one since Chicago like 5 weeks ago in Taylor Swift's first game that she showed up at. It's a good time to do it. It's in Vegas. It's a division game. They're favored by 9.5. I probably will regret this. Kansas City is like known for not covering, but I'm going to take them minus 9.5. And man, I'm taking a lot of big spreads this week and I do not like it, but I'm going to take them. And hopefully their receivers can catch a ball and Travis Kelce too. I mean, he had a big drop last week. He had a fumble in the red zone. I don't know. We'll see. They don't look great, but I think they're going to. I'm going to take them minus 9.5. The Eagles are at home and they're favored by 3.5 against the Buffalo Bills. I know this one's probably going to seem like an upset. The Eagles are cruising right now. They're 9-1. They've won a lot of tough games. They just beat Kansas City in Kansas City. They've been playing so well, and Buffalo has not. They just had a good win against the Jets, but the rest of the season has not been going very smooth. And I'm going to take Buffalo in this plus 3.5 only because Buffalo they so desperately need a big win bad if they want to make the playoffs. And Philly they've come out on top of a lot of really close games, which is a sign of a good team. But I'm just wondering if we get another close game, because Buffalo's desperate, they are really talented, and Philly has won all the games that they've been in that are close, if maybe that flips on Sunday. Maybe that's just me hoping because I'm a Cowboys fan and chasing them in this division is infuriating. But I don't know. I've picked the Eagles, I think, every week this year. Like, I have been on them. They have looked amazing, and I still believe they are. I just think Buffalo needs it too bad. And if they don't win this game and if they get killed or whatever, like, that might be it for them. They really need a big win. They need a win in general, and they need a win against a good team. They need to get back in the groove of things. Beating the Jets, I don't think does much for them. So I'm going to take Buffalo plus 3.5 reluctantly, hesitantly. Baltimore is traveling to LA to play the Chargers, and they're 4.5 point favorites. And I said in my last video, if Baltimore covered against Cincinnati, I said I would stop doubting them like I sort of have been and pick them the rest of the year. I don't know if that counts because Burrow was out. He got hurt and was out the rest of the game, but they did cover. They won big. They've been winning big. And I think they're really flying under the radar, and they've won a lot of games, and they're one of the top teams in the league and obviously the AFC. And not to mention, this Chargers team is just an absolute mess right now. Brandon Staley is off his rocker. The receivers can't catch a pass. The defense is letting anybody and everybody hang 300 passing yards on their heads. It's just not looking good for them. They are just in a downward spiral. Staley is just somehow still there. I have no idea. And they're wasting Herbert's years away. But I think Baltimore keeps up that momentum. I think they win big against the Chargers. And this might be what really sends the Chargers just spiraling. So I'll take Baltimore minus 4.5. Then on Monday Night Football, we have Chicago playing in Minnesota, and Minnesota is 3.5-point favorites. And this is actually kind of a fun game. Josh Dobbs has been really entertaining to watch this season. Justin Fields is back, and he looked really good against Detroit. They should have won that game. They choked it away at the end. They had him. So, and he played great. He was their leading passer and their leading rusher. He looks good. I think he has something to prove for this organization. He wants to be there, even with these picks they're probably going to end up with. And I think Minnesota still has a really good roster, and they're really exciting to watch. Surprisingly, I'm leaning Chicago plus 3.5. I have a weird feeling they win this game. And even if they don't, I think it'll be a close one. I don't know if Minnesota's going to run away with this. And again, I might look so stupid for this because Minnesota has looked really good and Chicago's looked really bad all year. But that Detroit game was promising for me. And I think Justin Fields really did look good. So I'm going to take Chicago plus 3.5 on Monday Night Football, and we'll see what happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.